All right, Blake. We're live. Welcome back, brother. This will be day 19 of uploading 30 podcasts in 30 days. Um,
Wow.
yeah, I love that you're back on here. I know we talked a little bit before about you asking me some questions, kind of flipping the script a bit, and you said you got a question to start with, so I'm ready to hear it.
Yeah. Well, it's great to be back. I didn't know you run 19 out of 30, so you're almost there.
Almost there. Yep.
Almost there. It's gonna
I
feel
got
good when that's done.
I'm trying
Big,
to
big
do
ups to
more
you.
guest episodes to finish it out. But at some point I might have to throw in some more solos or just random stuff, but we'll see.
Yeah. How do you like solo episodes compared to guest episodes?
I much prefer guest episodes, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's cool to, I mean, I've had some that I've enjoyed in expressing my thoughts, but I think the way I want this podcast, this format, is to be more so me talking with guests and learning from guests. And it's just more fun to bounce ideas instead of just talking alone into a camera. Feels a
Yeah.
little awkward, honestly.
Yeah, I agree for sure. So we were just talking a bit before, and we've been sending texts back to each other about books that we're reading, and I had no idea that you were such a bookworm. Maybe it's maybe
I
maybe it's a
get
newer thing. I
ups
don't
and
remember
downs.
I don't remember seeing you reading books in your dorm in Knoxville and Carrick. So
Yeah, I
maybe.
actually did read a
Oh,
few.
you did?
Yeah,
Okay.
not as many as I have in more recent years, but
Yeah.
I I would sneak some in there.
Yeah. So I actually want to ask about that. Like, when did that start? Like, really becoming obsessed with reading, and sort of you definitely have a niche of the kinds of books that you like as well. So maybe you can speak to that. But like from my experience talking to people my age, my friends, like reading is sort of becoming this lost art, like this thing
Mm.
that no one really does anymore. And I certainly am someone who loves to read, and I there's a part of me that wishes more people were reading because I feel like they're really missing out. And anyway, so I'm just curious if you could speak to your relationship to reading, where that came from, and how you
So
see it.
yeah, that's a fantastic question and way to frame it. I don't think I have one big moment where I was like, yes, I'm a reader now. But I mean, I've always preferred nonfiction over fiction books. Even when I was a little kid, like I loved just reading Guinness Book of World Records, Ripley's Believe It or Not, like all these random fact books always really appealed to me. And when I was growing up, my dad, he was a professor at Sacramento State, and my mom was a teacher. So
Okay.
having that aspect of them both in education, they've definitely encouraged me to read.
Yeah.
And that was always something that was rewarded or accessible. But I definitely in my high school years did not read at all for fun. My mom and I, we actually joke one of the biggest fights we ever got in. She was trying to get me to read books and she looked at one. She was like, "This one looks good." And I looked at her, I go, "Don't judge a book by its cover." And she was like, "I don't care if you ever read again. You I mean,
That's
I
hilarious.
was being very rude. But I
Yeah.
think in college, actually freshman year, I read this book called American Predator, which was super
Mm.
interesting because I was taking a criminology course, and there were some books I had to read for my classes too. But I feel like it's different when you're forced to read, you know? Like I'd more so skim
Completely.
those than when I actually enjoyed them. But I think I don't I honestly I've gone in phases where I read a lot, where I don't. But I think my senior year of college, so I don't know if you even knew this, but I graduated a semester early.
Mm-mm.
But I stayed in Knoxville for that semester and I was doing random stuff. I was DJing, making some money. I still had a lease on the house, but I had a lot of free time. I wasn't doing any classes. I didn't really have any real job. I was kind of doing random gigs. So I got into reading then and I just had a lot of time to do it. And I've always liked reading. I guess self-help would be the genre.
Yeah.
But the book that made me like reading was The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, Mark Manson.
Okay.
I read that
Cool.
when I was 18. I
Wow, 18.
yeah, and I
A
remember
big
like
book for an 18-year-old.
yeah, or what'd you say?
That's a big book for an 18-year-old.
Yeah,
Like, I don't know if
yeah.
I could handle it at the time.
I mean, I probably didn't appreciate it as much as I would now, but it was Mark Manson. I was like the way he explained everything was just so interesting and it made so much sense. I really like the way he writes. I mean, I've read some of his other books and his articles and stuff, but I think that was the first book that I was like, wow, I should really get into reading and that I like this specific genre. And now, I mean, I've read a ton of books, but
Yeah.
I think so. My senior year, I got Laws of Human Nature by Robert
Mm.
Greene. And I didn't know much about Robert Greene. His biggest book being 48 Laws of Power. But Laws of Human Nature was the first one I read. And the way he writes and tells stories and brings in this historical examples, and he talks about things in such a fascinating way and connects them. And that author I absolutely love. So now I've read, Mastery, I think would be my favorite book and the one I would recommend
Mm.
most to anybody like us. 48 Laws
Hmm.
of Power, like I read it and I felt so cynical. And, it's banned in some countries and prisons. Like it just speaks to how powerful of a book it is.
Really?
But have you read it?
No, I haven't.
Okay, it's really interesting. He goes through
I know the
48.
premise of it though. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's fascinating going through these different 48 laws, and he brings historical examples and talks about them. Um, and then he has another book, Seduction, which I've that and Art of War are the two I need to read. And I've read he has one. It's what's it called? Um, I'm blanking, but he goes through every day. But I'm almost done with that book. It's just like
Yeah.
something to remember every day. But Robert Greene got like that author. He's fantastic in the way he writes,
Hmm.
and he has. I know he's working on a new book right now that I'm really excited for whenever that comes out. That was a
Cool.
long-winded answer, but I
Yeah,
think
no,
I
it's
covered.
amazing. I have so many more questions. I didn't know that you were raised by two scholars. I'm sure that, yeah, I'll actually start there. How was being raised by two scholars? Like, how do you feel like that influenced you in your upbringing, who you are today, just being in that sort of family where that was the culture?
Yeah, good question. I don't know if it's so much that my parents were scholars necessarily, although that definitely helped with learning. And my dad he taught child development in college. And he'll tell you, he's like, I still struggled so much parenting. He's like, I taught this stuff and it's hard to actually do.
Hmm.
But really, I'm just really fortunate. I have really great parents. I still have a great relationship with them. I think they always prioritized, and they still do prioritize family. And everyone in my family is really close. I have little brother, little sister, and my parents. It's really cool the culture they have created in our family, and that we actually like hanging out with each other, and they're supportive and open. But they gave me plenty of space to make my own mistakes and learn things growing up. So yeah,
Nice.
when I become a parent, I aspire to be like they've been, which I think is a huge compliment and really speaks to how fortunate I am to have the upbringing that I did.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. So it's wild to me that I didn't know back then, freshman year, when we knew each other. Like I had no idea that you had this other side to you that was, reading these sorts of books. And I think if I had known that, we maybe would have been a bit closer. We were friends, but we weren't like best friends by any means. And no, I think it's interesting that there's like these different sides to us that sometimes
Yeah. Yeah.
other people don't really know. And I don't know what your experience was, but for me at least, sometimes I notice around certain people, I different sides of me come out versus other sides. And so like I had never known this side of you at all in the year that I knew you. And so I'm just curious, what has that been like? Do you feel like it is a part of you that you get to like bring forth in a lot of your relationships in that environment, for example? Or do you feel like it's more of this side to you that most people don't actually know so much, but when you get to talk about it, it's like, oh, I feel so good. I love this part of me.
Blake, these are you're making me think. These are fantastic questions. I think going back to Robert Greene, he talks a lot about in 48 Laws of Power. He talks about this how we wear different masks and faces, and everyone does it, right?
Hmm.
We act differently whether we want to or not around different people, friends, family. If you're in court, if you're going to behave differently. So I think that just happens naturally for people. I think I've weirdly kind of liked some of the dichotomies, if that makes sense. Like, yes, I
Mm,
was a fraternity boy and at a
yeah,
big SEC school. Yes, I also read. I was in an honors program. I'm doing a master's program. I take care of myself. Like in a weird
yeah,
way, I almost like these two thoughts. Like I don't know
yeah,
if
yeah.
work hard, play hard would be the closest comparison. Um, but I don't think I shy away from it. I think all my close friends, they know what I do for the most part and know my hobbies
Hmm.
and know that I'm kind of into this stuff. And
Yeah.
I mean, I
Are
don't
they
know.
into it as well? Your close friends?
I think it it totally varies by the friend. I think I have kind of a range of friends. Like I don't know. Some not really at all, honestly, and then some more so are, I guess, super into health or growth or other stuff, but some aren't in like the same sense I am. So I don't know. It would
Right.
kind of just depend on the friend.
Yeah.
It's hard to say, but it is interesting. I don't think I'm super similar to all my friends. And I know a lot of people say, like you're the sum of the five people you spend the
Right.
most time with and other stuff. And I don't necessarily feel like that in kind of a strange way, but not a bad way. Like I don't feel bad about that.
Right.
Um, I don't know if that makes sense.
Hmm. For sure. No, it's super cool that you're able to like hold that dichotomy and you don't feel forced to become one or the other. I feel like that's the trap that a lot of people get in. It's like I have to be this or I have to be that. And I think when I look back on my experience freshman year or whatever, that time in my life, I certainly was caught in that trap
Hmm.
where I didn't feel like, okay, this
But
is
in a
who they
way that
like.
was
This is the
uncomfortable.
person that they like, and so I'm gonna be that, and I don't want to show these parts of me. And I
Mhm.
think most humans have that in some degree. We have these certain, to use Robert Greene's words, like masks that are a part of us, but that we don't maybe think there's a lot of space for within this social environment or something like that. So it's really cool to see that you were able to just do it, and you can have both and you like both, and
Yeah,
not
right.
everyone I don't think can do that in the same way.
Yeah, in no way I'm saying like I'm fully confident and I've always felt great
Yeah.
socially and I've always, been the same person and everything. Like none of that. But I think I am in a place where I don't feel like I'm two different people. I feel like I can balance, I guess, both sides. And it's also, I mean, just been an experience working and the job I do is very serious. I mean, I testify in cases. I'm dealing with people's children, things most people care the most about, people who have kids. That's
Yeah.
usually the number one priority in their life. And it's a very serious role. And I mean, I'd be lying if I said sometimes I don't feel like an imposter. I'm like, who let me do this? Who let me like
Right.
testifying in court? I don't know why that specifically always just blows my mind. I'm like, I'm a 24-year-old kid and I'm up here. But then I also have just more responsibilities. Like there's weekends I'm on call. Last weekend I was on call. I had to keep my phone on 24/7. If I have friends
Jeez.
going out to a bar, I can't go drink because I might get called out to have to go investigate child abuse. So it's just like I don't I don't even know where I was quite going with this, but I think that's
Hmm.
also been I feel like I'm just on a bit of a different path as you are than how people typically perceive like the group we were with in college. Like going
Yeah.
out, maybe getting a more, just
Yeah.
some sort of business job, throw in different
Yeah.
genres
Yeah.
under that. Um, I feel like I'm
Yeah.
just kind of doing different things and I like that aspect. And then I also like the familiarity of hanging with people who maybe are more on that other path as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I agree. It's nice to have a bit of both. So sort of going on that same line and not talking about fraternity at UT freshman year, just more of because I feel like that's sort of an example of pop culture as a whole. Obviously, there's different flavors of it. That was in the South. There's a specific
I like the word
demographic that,
flavors,
yeah,
different flavors.
I use flavors a lot.
That's a good
But
word.
like I guess just when you look out at pop culture in our age group, maybe younger, but yeah, our age group, and I guess the majority of people on like maybe the mainstream path, like what do you see? What do you
Hmm.
think?
I think,
And just to add another layer to the question, like I would say, like you already named, you're a big outlier. You're an outlier in the books that you're reading and the interests that you are, I think, in the level of health that you hold yourself to. And so when you look at sort of the majority, like what do you think?
yeah, well, I appreciate that. I think it goes back to our discussion on attention, and I think it's very hard to give your attention. I think it's easy to give your attention to things that make you feel better in the short term, and it's pretty hard to create systems in your life that support you in the long term. And it takes
Mm,
a lot of reflection and focus. And I mean, you're constantly doing it. Like I've constantly tried to improve things I'm doing, and I'm very far from perfect. But I think I see how it's very easy for people. Like life's hard sometimes, it is. And sometimes things happen completely outside of your control that are difficult. Having a job sucks, having to, manage finances sucks, having responsibility sucks. working out is hard, managing relationships. It's all hard and it's a lot. And I think a lot of people just don't have good systems in place to support them because willpower will only go so far.
Mm.
And I think it's easy to just give your
Mm-hmm.
attention to things and just I don't know. I can see how you can get in a loop where you're like, I just need to get through today. And some days I have that where I'm like, like last night I was sitting in a transitional home where sometimes kids who are in the state's
Yeah.
custody but they haven't found placement, workers have to rotate and sit there. And I mean, I'm just like, the kids were in bed. It's late at night, and I'm just scrolling on my phone for like an hour and just wishing the
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
would go in. I wish it wasn't like that, but I don't know. I see how it gets like that if that answers your question. So I think attention's
Yeah.
difficult, and I think a lot of things grab and vie for our attention.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I guess it's important to just reflect on that, and then also what is a good life or being successful mean to you? Because for me,
Mm.
Joe, it may be very different for you, Blake,
Yeah.
and very different for someone else.
Right.
Like I think we both really enjoy traveling, but for some people, maybe they don't like traveling. Like it's stressful. There's a lot to
Yeah.
do, and there's other stuff they like. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I kind of went
Yeah.
all over the place there.
It's such an important question, right? Like really asking yourself, what does it even mean to be successful? Or what does it even mean to be wealthy? You know, everyone's chasing success, but if you ask most people, they don't have a definition for it. Like, no, I've
Yep.
never asked that question. It's so important. And I
Yeah, I
also
mean,
feel like
I
uh-huh.
I was just going to add, I think the important thing is that you're asking the question in the first place.
Yeah.
And your answer is going to change over time, but the fact that you're even thinking about it is a good thing. And if you're not thinking about it, maybe you should think a little bit about it
Right. And
instead of just wandering
it's gonna
around.
be two things when you ask the question. Either you're gonna be like, fuck, I have no idea. And that's a really important piece of information because now you actually get to spend time thinking about it. Because if you didn't know what you were even going, if you didn't know what the North Star was, really there wasn't a North Star at all. Like that's something you want to know. You don't want to keep moving along the path realizing that you're chasing something that you don't even know what it means to you. So that's an important piece. Or when you ask the question, you're gonna realize, oh wow, it means this, it means this, it means this. And as you answer the question, you're going to get excited about it. It's going to make you want to pursue the thing even more. And so both of those potential pathways that come through answering the question are so incredibly important.
Yep,
But I
absolutely.
feel
Yeah.
and I feel like what else you're speaking to is also so important and just a really real part of reality for a lot of people right now. It's like day to day. You know, we're not thinking 5 years out. It's like, let me get through this day. And for me, I often think about it when it comes and goes for me, this if like the felt sense is that I'm drowning. Like I'm drowning and I can barely get a breath of air. Like we're all just barely hanging on sometimes.
Yeah, and
And
it's like it never ends, you
and
know?
it is so real. Like how are we gonna pause to even ask those questions like you're talking about? You know, if we're literally thinking 1 second ahead, what's the next source of distraction or whatever it is, and the stress and needing to figure out your life, what you're going to do the rest of your life, all of these like huge things that are weighing down on people. Am I going to have a job? Like, am I going to have a job? All these stresses, like, it's a lot. It's a lot to hold.
Yeah. And I think at the same time, I think, it frustrates me sometimes when people say, well, I don't have time. Well, you do. You're just
Yeah.
allocating it towards different things. Because I mean, if you think of
hmm
how much time we
Check
spend
your
doing other
screen
things,
time, brother.
yeah,
We'll
and it,
we'll figure out if you have time.
yeah, and it, of course, you don't want to be productive 24/7. At some point, that's just gonna do the opposite. You can't always be doing something productive, but I think it's important to it's hard in my job too because I'm expected to respond quickly and respond to my phone and emails. But it's really hard to do deep work and focus on a task and get a lot done when you're trying to type something, but then you get a call
Yeah.
here and now you're thinking about this, and then maybe you scroll on
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
personal phone for a second. So I think the best thing to do to help your time is when you're focus on something, work hard. When it's time to just relax, even if it's watching TV or hanging with your significant other or friends or whatever, do that. Like, be okay with
Yeah.
that. Let yourself do it. The worst is that weird in between where
Right.
you either are trying to be productive, but you're not being super productive and it just doesn't feel good and you're kind of doing stuff.
hmm
Or later on where you know, you just don't feel good and you're thinking about things you need to do and you're with someone and then you're not fully there. And I obviously struggle with this too, but I think that thought of, you know, when you're working, work hard and work focused, and when you're relaxing,
Right.
just relax deeply and let yourself do it.
Yeah, yeah. Two things that I want to speak to that you brought up, and then maybe we can get into more of the practicalities of attention because we keep talking about attention, and I feel like there's a lot of talk about it out there right now, and there's not a lot of talk about solutions, and that's ultimately what we need because people don't know what the fuck to do about it. But two things. One, this idea that there's not a lot of time. Um, yeah, I just want to like validate that experience and how real it can feel of like, fuck, there's just not time. There's just, and objectively, of course, there is time, but just like that feeling,
Hmm.
that like
Oh
drowning
yeah,
feeling.
the feeling's
It's so,
absolutely
it's
real.
so, it's so real. And so I want to validate, but then and I think the other piece there is for some people, just acknowledging the fact that what you're spending your time doing is not what you actually want to be spending your time doing.
Hmm.
Like that's a really big truth to swallow. Like the majority of my time is going towards something that I'm not so stoked on. That's the experience of a lot of people, and I don't think a lot of people necessarily let themselves admit that to themselves.
Mm.
But like if you're gonna change, if there is a possibility that you're gonna start spending your time doing something that you actually want to do, that you kind of enjoy, that's where we got to start. You got to admit to yourself that, yo, life could be better.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
kind of wish I could be spending my time doing something else. That's where we got to start. And then from there, we actually can have a really real conversation and sit down and look at your entire schedule, look at where your time actually is going, and then we start small. So maybe it's literally 30 minutes of exercise a day. It doesn't have to be 2 hours, but it's almost like
yeah. You got to take a phone call for work. Go walk for 30 minutes while you do it, you know?
totally like we start slow and we start layer by layer by layer and treat each layer like a fucking win. Like, okay, I'm spending 8 hours at a job that I hate most of my day, but when I get up in the morning and I get my 30 minutes of a workout, whatever, like that's me. That's where I feel alive. How can we start treating those little layers by win? And then all of a sudden, you've got that layer dialed in. Then we get to add a new layer and then a new layer. And then there
Yeah.
might come a time where you've reached the part where you're like, I'm ready to switch jobs. Or, it doesn't even have to be the job, but like then at a certain point, the layers reach these bigger sort of life decisions. But we have to start somewhere.
I bunch of great thoughts. I have so much to add too. And I think yeah, I think what you were touching on too is I think sometimes people are disillusioned like, oh, if I had this one job, I would be perfectly happy and it would be great. On some level, work is always going to be work. Like there's going to be stuff you don't like to do. Now,
Right.
there's a big difference between being absolutely miserable
Yeah.
every day, right? Or having just an awful
Mm-hmm.
boss in
Right.
normal work. And it's not that you shouldn't strive for something better, but I
Yeah.
think you shouldn't just tell yourself that, once I find my dream job, it's going to be all, sunshine and rainbows. It's not.
Right.
And I think what you're saying about these wins is focus on what you can control. And that's something I've been thinking a lot about and struggling when I have these.
Attention.
Yeah, attention. It really is though. And when I have these super long days in my job in child protective services, it's what can I control? I can work out before I go to work. If I have some downtime, I can work on my podcast. I bring my work computer. I bring a book. I can control what I eat. If I've had a hard day and I want to get something good, I can treat myself to that. Like there's just things instead of just thinking that this is all out of my control because that's what really sucks. And I feel that way sometimes where it's like
Yeah.
there's just so much going on and you just feel like you can't do anything about it. And that feeling is really awful. So anything you
Yeah.
can do to take back some control, I think is a good thing.
Completely. It reminds me of this Mark Manson quote that I'm definitely not going to say right, but it's something like everything that you do, any career path, any pursuit, it's it's always going to include some level of the suck. Like
Mm.
this sucks. This is painful. This is not super fun. Anything, even your quote unquote dream job. And so it's really just a matter of deciding the thing that you want to sacrifice the suck for. Something along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, life is all trade-offs. And I really like that word
Yeah.
trade-offs because that's what it is. Like everything's a trade-off. And
Yeah.
we get jealous of people and wish we were in their positions and wish we were doing what they're doing and we might be in it and absolutely hate it. And God, it is so easy to get in front of a microphone and be cliche, isn't it? But the grass isn't always greener.
Cliches are cliche because they're fucking true. The amount of
Yeah.
cliches that people call cliche but they don't do in their life is a laundry list. So
Yeah.
keep
I
saying the cliches and let's get people doing them.
You know what I think another problem is, and going back to attention, if we're talking about, like, say you're someone you want to improve your life, there's so much information. And not only is there so much information, a lot of it's outright conflicting. Like, eat
Yeah,
this, don't eat that, only eat carbs, never eat carbs. Like,
right,
nutrition is just the biggest convoluted mess. When
right.
really what like I think people should be saying is try to eat more whole foods. You know,
Yeah,
eat till when you feel full. Just eat less junk food. Just move
yeah,
your body for 30 minutes every day. Just like
right.
something sustainable. But instead, people get
Yeah.
into all these crazy diets and routines and they try to, like cold plunging. Like, don't
Mm-hmm.
go cold plunge if you're not getting like 6,000 steps a day. Don't go cold plunge if you're not getting 8 hours of sleep. Like, there's so
Yeah,
many things you can do, like
yeah,
sleeping well. I mean, that's huge. And I think people
yeah.
get lost in this nitty
Oh my
gritty,
gosh.
oh, there's plastic in your water bottle. Okay, at least I'm drinking water. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
not gonna worry about that.
Yeah, what issues are we going to focus on, right? Like I'm probably putting, chemicals in my body with the shampoo that I'm using. I don't think about the shampoo.
Yeah, or
But there's
like,
there's bigger fish to fry, and maybe someday I'll get to that point. I hope to get to that point actually, where I am like, really dialed on that. But again, it's coming back to the layers. What layer are you actually at? If you're getting 3 hours of sleep, don't fucking worry about the plastic in your water bottle. Like let's start with the elephant in the room.
yeah. Well, I
And
just think it's hard because there is all that stuff, but I think really there's just basic stuff we can do that makes such a huge difference. And I mean, sleeping well might be the absolute
exactly,
biggest.
exercise and sleep. If you're not doing those, then start there.
Yep.
The
And
the
and
keystone habits, the
yeah,
habits that affect all the other habits dramatically.
and don't
Because if you're
do anything
starting,
crazy, don't start
yeah,
like David Goggins on day one.
right. Yeah, we're going for sustainability, right? But if you start to work out, you're going to naturally want to start to eat better, which is probably going to create a cycle of wanting to go to sleep earlier. Like these
When it
big
helps with
habits
sleep,
that
yeah.
create the cycles, that influence all the others. But just to speak to the nutrition thing, like if it's ever black and white, it's probably not the truth. Like the nutrition piece, for example, it's all contextual. Yeah, the carnivore diet might be good for someone who has autoimmune disorder and they've tried everything else and that's it. It's like, but it's all contextual and it's all seasonal. And that's why, and to hold those sorts of perspectives requires critical thinking and complexity. So it's like, I'm going to do the carnivore diet for the rest of my life. No, this might be the move for you right now. And in 2 years, you might go to a different kind of diet. And so just to say that, I want to say
Yeah,
something and then maybe we get into the attention stuff. And this is a good
let's do it.
segue. So you mentioned Deep Work, um, which is a book you're reading. Actually, do you want to define deep work for the listener who probably doesn't know what deep work is?
Yes, he has a specific definition, but I'll try to give a longer one, but it's almost more of a feeling than it is a specific, right? Like there's no metric for deep work, but I think we've all felt that where it's almost a feeling when you're really engaged in whatever you're doing, time almost seems to pass. Like you're
Right,
just solely focused on one goal, on what you're doing. It's like the very opposite of multitasking. And he talks
right,
in the book, there's different ways to train that and increase that. But really, it's the idea of just the fact that our attentions are so scattered most of the time, and that
right.
to get into that feeling and to be able to give the best output, you have to create these spaces where you can just focus
Mm,
on one goal.
hmm. Yeah. It's like flow state, right? Like
Yeah, yeah, he,
they're pretty
yeah,
much the same thing.
yep.
Um, Amazing. So coming from this podcast that I sent to you today, um, this crazy statistic that just continues to blow my mind. So there's citations on this. I'm happy to send them to you if any listener is disbelieving. But for people 18 to 35 years old, uh, we check our phones on average 200 to 220 times a day.
Dude, what's crazy is I believe
And
it.
so and so if you're getting 8 hours of sleep, that means you're checking your phone every 4.5 minutes. And how long does it take to get into deep work?
Well, I mean, the whole purpose is like he talks about different routines to get you into it. Um,
It takes longer than 4.5 fucking
yeah,
minutes.
yeah. You got to be
It's like
focused on a
15 to
task
20.
for a period of time.
Like around 15, I think. And so basically, the average human, 18 to 35, is getting into has 0 moments of deep
Yeah.
work throughout their
But
day.
even if you, let's say you got into it in 15 minutes and you check your phone, start that timer
Right.
over.
Start the timer over. And um and there's other research coming from this guy John Vervaeke. I heard him talking about it, where like literally there's such a strong correlation between just like general wellness, psychological wellness, a good life, and the amount of flow state that people are getting into throughout their life.
Mm.
Like people who have activities in their life where they're regularly getting into flow state, deep work. And this can be so many different things. This can be the skier, this can be the rock climber, this can be you sitting at your desk working on papers, right? Like I certainly have this within my work where I'm just, working on a website or something. It doesn't have to necessarily be like, you
Well,
know,
I think you could even extend, and I think this part's important too, because this is also, and we're all guilty of this. But even when we're just spending time with other people, how often we check our phone. Or even
right.
sometimes, dude, sometimes I'm watching a movie and I'm like scrolling on my phone. I'm not even paying attention to the movie. And I'm just like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's so much better and it feels so much better to just be engaged in one thing and like getting lost in a conversation with a
Right.
friend or instead of, yeah,
Right.
just to add, I had that
Yeah,
thought too.
yeah.
And
For sure, man. And again, this is all coming from this podcast. I can maybe you can link it or something, but from this guy Eric Ghazi, he has all the citations there. There's also this study has been replicated that when you have your phone, if you're like trying to work on something, if you have your phone and the phone is literally turned down, it's completely off, even if it's not your own phone, it will reduce your cognitive capacities something close to like 40%.
if it's just in your
If it's
field of
in your
vision,
eyesight, if it's in your field of vision, and
you
this
know what?
study has
I'm
been
putting this in my
replicated multiple
pocket.
times. And so all of this to say, there's all of this to say, in terms of what to do about attention, for me, and I think maybe some of the listeners will, like this will work for them as well, is like really using the frame of training like an athlete. Like we are needing to train our attention like an athlete. That's the time that we're in on planet Earth right now. And so when you're going to sit down and watch a movie or you're going to go work during the day, like literally treat you putting the phone somewhere else or whatever it is and saying, "Okay, I'm not touching my phone until the task is complete." Like literally you're training your muscle of attention. Like and it's hard because when you go to the gym and you train your biceps, you can see the veins are pumping. You can walk out and see that you just got a big pump.
If you're not looking
With
at
it
your phone.
right, if you're not looking at your
Dude, even
phone,
at the
right.
gym, I mean,
Yeah. I posted about this the other day. It's like again, starting with the small layers. That's a small freaking layer. You don't need to scroll between your sets. So when you go work
you
out,
did, yeah. Yeah,
put
yeah.
on a podcast or a playlist and put your phone away until you come back out.
Or even
It's like
better, don't listen to anything. Just
yeah,
do it.
right. Right. But that might be a stretch for some people.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
like
I'm a psychopath. I run without
literally,
music.
and this is the thing that you already brought up. If we try and start with too many things, like if you try and look up the list of everything that you do to save your attention, and you try all of it, you're probably going to last 2 days and then you're going to stop.
Yep.
The attention crisis is not something you're going to fix in a week, in 2 weeks, 2 months. It's something that I've been thinking about that actually this is just going to have to become a part of life.
Yeah, I
There's
think
never going to come a day where you say, I checked the box of fixing my attention. Now I can move on. This is learning how to be this is learning how to be an adult in 2025 on planet Earth. And it's just going to keep getting worse. And
I was
so
about to say that.
I think it's going to have to become an integrated part of our lifestyle.
Yeah, in deep work, I was reading a chapter last night in the transitional home. I did do some reading, fortunately. But
Nice.
he was talking about the how hard it is though, the willpower. So he actually suggested scheduling times where you are allowed to use your phone or internet or whatever. So that way when you have
Completely.
these times, you don't feel guilty about it instead of just being like, well, I'm just going to be on my phone less. Well, that's hard because you have no structure to that.
It's not going to work. Yeah.
So I thought that was an interesting idea. I don't know exactly. how I'd implement it. Like I
I
just read
have
this
some
last
things.
night.
I brought some goodies to show
Yeah,
and talk
yeah,
about. Because
please.
man, this has been, I mean, beyond, and it's funny as well that I say like this is gonna that I use the word like we're gonna have to integrate this into our lifestyle. The thing is, training your attention, it's not only like, okay, you're gonna get better at using your phone. It will help everything else within your life. You're going to feel much better if you have more control over your attention. Like it
Yeah,
literally is going to influence anything. So it's not a have to, it's like a get to. You're doing something good for yourself, you know?
yeah. Well, it's fascinating too. They talked about this research they did also in deep work, and obviously I keep citing it because that's what's on my mind, on my attention.
Active recall, let's go.
Yep, but there's memory athletes is the term they use for people who they're just able to, like, say you shuffled a deck of cards, handed it to this person, they look through the deck, they can recite it back in order to you, all 52 cards. And they go, these people actually they don't have any better memories. They're just really good at honing in their attention. They're
Hmm.
not, it's not like their brains are bigger and they have regions that are bigger. They're just really good at honing in their attention. They explained it more in the book that in a way that I couldn't. But that was pretty interesting to read.
Yeah. The book Peak that I was telling you about is very similar, but they were like feeding people with numbers and then they would just keep upping the digits to see how long.
Mm,
And it was a similar idea. But what I wanted to share, which I don't know how much the listeners of the Average Joe podcast will appreciate this. I don't know if
I,
they're
please.
the kind that are taking notes and
We don't have too many listeners, so it's
all you guys out there,
we're getting
uh,
there, all you millions of
the
people.
people in the back. I'm actually gonna post about this after this. But it's so true. Saying that, okay, I'm just gonna check my phone less does not work. And so the idea is like having the intention does not work. For better or for worse, I'm someone who loves to solve problems and I love to solve my own problems. And I'd say
Never
for
ending
like,
journey.
it's a never ending journey. So you'll burn out if you feel like you're going to reach the end result, which I'm still working on. But for the past like few years, I would have these like lightning strike moments of insight where I'd realize, oh my gosh, I know exactly what I need to change in my life. I know exactly what I want to do. I'm just gonna do this, 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 and I'm gonna stop doing this, 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 and it's all gonna be so good. And it's in those moments you know that it's possible. You know that there is zero reason why you couldn't do it, but we don't do it. You know, 3 days go by, and then it's a Wednesday afternoon. You're like, this sucks. And so anyway, we stopped doing it, and you know that's been my life for years and years and years. And I'd say the past year and a half, I've really, honestly, I can say just to acknowledge, like I've been cracking codes on this, and I've found stuff that's works, and that's why I want to share it with you. Um, and so the frame that is so powerful alone is like that we're running experiments. And so saying two reasons, like when you say, okay, I'm just gonna stop checking my phone, it's like in that moment, you probably just doom scrolled for 5 hours and now you're at the rock bottom. You're like, all right, here
Yeah.
we go, time to change. But then like 2 days rolls around and you're not in that same space, you know? Maybe you stopped and now you're like, oh, it's okay. I'm just gonna go back into it for a little bit. That's one reason obviously it doesn't work. But also when we say it like that, it's like, okay, we're just gonna do this for the rest of our life into infinity. And there's something about that that just like doesn't click versus
Mm.
if you said, I'm gonna run this experiment for 35 days. That is so much more tangible. That is so much more approachable, right? And so here's the thing. Here's how it goes. Um, One is choosing your behaviors. And so if you've never done something like this or you're new to all this, we tend to overwhelm and say, I'm going to do 5 things. Just do one or two.
See, this is why I've talked about this. I can't remember if we touched on this in our conversation, but the whole concept of New Year's resolutions is so dumb to me. Like, I, I, I don't know. I feel like if you're gonna change something, like you got to do
Right.
it. And I
Yeah, yeah.
think that's just like what you're speaking of, rock bottom. Like people eat a lot during the holidays. You know, people go out on New Year's Eve and then they're like, I'm gonna fix everything tomorrow. Like you gotta no, just do
Yeah.
it now. Is
And
is my
that's
take.
the totally do it now. And like, you know, everyone's guilty of that to some degree. You say, I'm going to give myself just the weekend and I'll start on Monday. Like
Yeah.
we all do things
But I
like
think
that.
also with New Year's, as you're touching on, is people generally say they're going to change a bunch of things, which just isn't
Yeah.
isn't
Right.
practical.
And then they fall off. And this is you said this already, but this is a really important idea, like really important idea for people that really get it, that we're going to be changing for the rest of our lives. There are going to be things that you realize aren't working anymore, that your life would be better off with, and you are going to have things that you think would add to your life. Things that
Yeah,
would
or
be cool. And again, it doesn't always have to be these like existential problems. It can be like, yo, I want to start reading for 20 minutes. I would love to pick up the habit of reading. I know that would be good for my life. I want to learn the guitar, whatever it is, you know? And so that's, for me at least, that's a lifelong thing. Why would I ever want that to stop? I want my life to continue feeling better and better and better and better. How can you say otherwise? And so, and the thing is that we grew up in a culture that pretty much the grain of our society goes against many things that are conducive to health and well-being. It's not conspiracy theory. It's like there's fucking chemicals in our food. Like the list goes on and on and on. Like attention. Like if you're just going with the wind of our society, you're gonna you're gonna have some shit to work on. That everything we're talking about attention is because the grain of society has fucked us all over in that sense. So you are in some way going against the grain when you're starting to do your attention because you're going to look around, everyone's going to be on their phone. Like that's the sort of cultural pressure we're going against. And I'm not trying to, start a cult of like anti-society sorts of people. It's just I think it's an important thing to recognize that like if we were moving with the grain and the cultural norms were like everyone gets into deep work all the time and no one has their phones out when they're together. Like this, we wouldn't be having this conversation,
yeah.
right? People wouldn't need to do New Year's resolutions if that was the case.
Yeah.
So like that's just acknowledging that that's the playing field. Shit, I
Well,
lost where I
I
was going.
guess in a
Yeah.
perhaps a optimistic note, the bar is rather low.
Bro, it's so low. It's so low for real. Oh,
So
I know where I was I
if
know
you
where I
want to
was
get
going with this.
ahead, I mean, it really is easier than ever, even if it
It is
doesn't feel
easier
like
than
it.
ever. Man, and that's the thing with the internet is that the time that we are living in, like getting ahead, and it's never been easier to learn anything you literally want. It's never been easier to pick up any sort of skill. It's never been easier in some ways to like start your own business that actually can really crush it. It's never been easier to not have to just do some job that you absolutely hate. It's never been easier to spread an idea like wildfire. But just to use the learning example, we literally have the Library of Alexandria at our fingertips, but most people never read a book after high school.
Have you read The Paradox of Choice? Are you
No, but I,
familiar
I
with
know
it?
the idea very well.
Yeah, well, I think that idea applies where it becomes overwhelming, if not, I mean, paralyzing may even be a word because there's so much to do and we have access to so much information. And it goes back to like the nutrition and other stuff is where do you even start? Like, that's a difficult question. Like, okay, I want to read. Where do I even
Yeah.
start? I think, and my take would be the important thing is don't think too much about where to start. Just pick up a
Just
book and read.
start.
Yeah, just start at all. And then through that
Just start.
process, you'll find what you like or what's
Yeah.
interesting. But I think a lot of people get stuck in,
Yeah.
how many YouTube videos are there like,
Yeah.
use
Yeah.
this AI tool to change your life or do this and you'll be rich by 2026 and
Right.
people watch these videos and some of these videos are hours and they have millions and millions of views and these people watch these videos and then do absolutely nothing different and I do this too sometimes
Right.
it's a rather why am I blanking on the word I'll just use the word vicious cycle though because you feel like you're being productive sometimes
Mm-hmm.
examining your choices and hearing all this stuff when
Yeah.
there's just going back to cliches, no substitute for experience.
Experience and hard work, like especially with the money thing. If anyone's promising you like get rich tomorrow, it's probably not fully true. Like things like that, they take work and they take dedication. And so being careful about that. And the thing with choice is like if you don't have attention, you don't have choice.
And I think
Attention
you
leads
almost
to
have to
choices.
also consciously limit your choices, is what we're saying when you
Right.
hone in your attention. Because as soon as you get on your phone, suddenly there's a bunch of
Yeah.
choices of where to go and what to do.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And like you're saying, planning, like to use the metaphor of like sitting on the bench versus playing on the field, like planning what you're going to do on the field is a great excuse to never actually leave the bench.
yep.
And I think a lot of people in there. And so the person who's like endlessly watching YouTube videos on like how to make a, whatever millionaire business in 2 days in 2025, like all of that, you know, I think for the most part, people know what to do. People know that thing in their life right now that they're not doing. And it's
And you
like
just got to do it.
I think we try and like yeah, we like try and act like we're looking over here at all this complicated stuff because that's a great way to not actually just look at the thing that's right here. That's actually like it's usually pretty simple. It's not usually super complex.
Yeah, but I guess that's what's so interesting, right? Is I completely agree, and yet it's so difficult
Yeah.
to do the simple and ignore all the complex, you know?
And that's the thing that you already said. It's never been easier to stand out right now. Do the simple things and get really good at it. Now,
It'd be
again,
fascinating to see like the stats for the average American, how many steps per day, how many workouts, how many books read, how many, like just seeing that. And I think
yeah.
anybody who tries a little bit would be surprised that they'll probably be significantly above average.
Yeah. Probably the average Joe listener is above average.
The average Joe, it's an interesting name. I'm trying to not be
Yeah.
average is the goal.
Yeah, yeah.
It is
So
kind of
I
fun having like no viewers because I'm not overly worried about what we say. Like if you're
uh-huh.
Joe Rogan, like you say something wrong or a fact wrong, like it could be problematic. Here, this is
Yeah,
very
Joe
low
doesn't
pressure.
care at all. The guest for sure. Yeah, yeah. So just to close the loop on the experiment thing, I don't know if people watch this, but this is my tracker for the experiment. And so,
Wait, can you hold that? Hold on, I was reading or keep
yeah, yeah,
talking about it. But
sorry.
so the top
So
set
so basically,
sports tracker, I want this.
yeah, yeah. So basically you have the
Dude, that's
boxes
cool.
with the stuff, you have the duration, you have
What the each thing
didn't
means.
start but didn't started but didn't finish and completed. And so basically pick your behaviors or two. So like mine was exercise, read nonfiction. Those are just two of them. So maybe those are your two habits. Okay, I'm gonna exercise and I'm gonna read nonfiction, and you pick how long you're gonna do it. So I do 45 days usually, and you pick how long you're going to do it. First of all, are you going to do it every day? I recommend doing it every day. And how long are you going to do it for every day? And so, with what we're doing, the point of it is that you're actually doing it. And so, for many people, they need to eat a slice of humble pie and meet themselves where they're at, because you might not be at the point where you're crushing hour and a half workouts every day. Like, the bar that you need to set for yourself might be like 30 minutes. And so,
Also,
and
if
then
you're
once you
working out hard, that's crazy doing an hour and a half every day.
Right. And maybe you work your way up there, but anyway, so then you've got to track, because if you're not tracking yourself, you're probably bullshitting yourself.
Mm.
You in psychology that we lie to ourselves all the time. The cognitive biases and stuff, and it's nice to look at. And there's this beautiful thing called the reactivity effect. And literally what it says is that just by starting to track yourself, by tracking your behavior, the intended behavior naturally starts to get better. And it's such a powerful effect that they literally like remove it from studies because it has such a strong effect. And so you don't even have to try and work out more. If you start tracking how much you're working out, you're naturally going to start working out more.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so in for anyone who's just listening to this, the tracker that I just showed, there were many empty boxes. And so really, if you want to get good at change, you're gonna have to get really good at recommitting, because you're gonna fail many, many times and you're not gonna do it perfectly. But strengthening the muscle so that you don't do it that one day, you do it so you get back on the horse the next day. Again, it comes back to this idea that this is just what we're going to be doing for the rest of our lives. So if we're trying to do it perfectly, you're going to last a week, then you're going to stop changing, you're going to give up. So
Yeah,
we
and
got to get good at recommitting.
absolutely. And I think to add too is that, I mean, starting is the hardest part. Like once you're exercising consistently, like I've been exercising semi consistently on and off since I was 14, but super consistently since my senior year of college. And now like I don't have to track it, like I just do it. I feel off if I don't
Right,
do it. And so
right. It's
starting
automatic.
out, it's very important, I think, to have that mindset and also knowing that this will get easier if it just
Right.
becomes a part of my life.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah.
I thought of a funny story when you were talking about biases that I thought of, and Anna Kate, my fiance, she
You're
works out.
engaged?
I am, yeah.
Bro, I had no
Yeah.
idea. Congrats,
Thanks,
man.
brother. Yeah,
That's
sorry. I
incredible.
guess I just assumed you knew.
Wow.
Um, yeah, yeah. So I got that going on in life too.
Wow. That's
I'm
so
married in
amazing.
April. Um, but so she does Pilates and she loves those workouts and all that stuff. But I've liked running for a while, and I would try to get her to run with me. And then one day she was like, "Well, running on pavement's bad for your knees." And and it just made me think of confirmation bias. Like she doesn't want to run. She probably saw some headline or article that said that. And now she's like, well, I don't want to ruin my
Let's
knees, so I'm
go.
not gonna run,
I don't have to run anymore.
And I'm like, oh my God. And I
Yeah.
did, and I pushed back. I'm like, no, it's not. It's good for your knees. Like, yeah, maybe if you're running ultra marathons, but I don't know. But it just made me
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that is an easy confirmation bias. I don't want to run. Here's a
That's
piece of
hilarious.
information that supports me not running. Let's throw that as the
Yeah, yeah. That's a great example. If you want the spicy version, get a note card that you carry around everywhere with you,
Mm.
and you mark it every time you pick up your phone.
Ooh,
I'm a
that is a
weekend,
spicy version.
and it's crazy. It's crazy
Is
how
that just from
much
today?
this no, this is a week. I've been doing good, but this
That's
is
from a
this
week? Dude, that's great. That's
yeah, like yesterday my pickups were 36. But again, like I've been working at this for a long time, and I hope that this is an example that actually there is a way. But like I kid you not, if I'm gonna go back and look at my screen time last week, I guarantee you it's drastically more. Again, just by tracking, I'm not trying necessarily to do anything differently, but the tracking of it naturally does.
mm,
And I've known about this for a while, and I get it. It's like it's a lot. And most people listening probably won't do it, but
I love
yeah,
that you're
it's
doing
it's
it.
wild. Well, you inspired me with this new like the experiment that you're running.
Well, yeah, do you want to talk about the experiment you're running as well, social
The
media wise?
Instagram. Yeah, I can. Do you have a question? Or you want me to just riff on it?
Yeah, just what are your thoughts? How's that go? I mean, what exactly is your goal? One, what exactly are you doing? And then how are you feeling about it so far?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's I'm 100% so far. I think I will be. Because even if it's, I'm sure you're finding this with the podcast. Some days the podcasts are way better, and the other days it's like good enough. But
Yeah, or maybe
uh,
maybe just okay, but that'll have to
yeah,
work if you're
just
doing
okay.
30 in 30 days. Like I have one coming out. I did an unboxing of a new camera I got, and then at the end of it, I'm like, that was way more boring than I wanted it to be. Because then
What
as
were
soon as
you
the
what
camera
were
came
you
on,
thinking?
you had
What
to
were you
download an
thinking?
app to like sign into it. I'm like, all right, downloading the app now. And I'm like,
What, you thought it was gonna be super engaging, like a new camera?
well, I thought it'd be cool to talk about and do a little unboxing. It was I didn't think it would be the most engaging, but at some point I got to put out something. I mean, 30 podcasts in 30 days is a lot.
Yeah, yeah. It'll be
Yeah,
funny
it's
when
probably gonna be
when
the
that
most boring one of this
it'll be
entire
funny when you
series.
see that that's the one that makes you go viral.
Yeah, watch it, dude. I get like 2 million views on that one. I'm like, no way.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so I mean, I'm an intense guy, and so I like intense initiations and experiments like this. And just there's this feeling of like you know that something's gonna happen. You know that you're gonna come out differently. And so let's go. Let's see. Like that's kind of my nature. Um, a couple of things though, like I personally want to be posting for a while. Like it just feels like a part of my life. So one of the ideas is that like we think that we think that we fully arrived in the digital world, but we're still arriving into it. And part of I think, and there's an idea called cultural lag. And so society, like basically society is there's a lag time between technological advancements and then basically psychologically the society fully digesting and arriving in the new time.
Probably a
That,
huge
does that
lag.
make sense?
Yeah,
And
it
it's like the
does.
same idea where there's like a new idea in science and then the scientific community takes 100 years before they fully adapt to it.
Yeah,
It's
there's some interesting, I don't remember the exact thing, but there was some doctor who there was all these babies dying. Like the mortality rate was through the roof. And he was like, "Guys, we got to start washing our hands." And everyone thought he was crazy. They're like, "We start washing our hands." And what a ridiculous thought. And then like years and years later, they realized, "Wow, we just wash our hands and all of a sudden the mortality rate has plummeted." And it's like it
right.
took this guy was he was like outcasted. Like people didn't like
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know if that quite applies, but made me
No,
think.
it for sure does. That's the way that science has always been. But you can also think about this on an individual level. Like in a way, your identity is catching up to who you are now. Like your identity is still, I don't know, months, a couple years in the past. That's why some people will say like, I wish you saw yourself the way that I see you. I don't know
Mm.
if you ever heard someone say that. But anyway, it's just like this concept that we seem to see throughout different arenas of life. But, in a way, AI, for example, the technological advancements with that are happening right now with AI, like we are totally not caught up to that in terms of like psychologically, societally.
Yeah, nor the speed that it's getting
Yeah, like
improving.
we're creating way beyond where we're we're not even able to have the conversation of like, should we create this? What are the effects of it? Because we're so far behind in the lag time.
Are
And so
you
anyway,
quick side note though, are you like doomsday on AI? Or are you a little more
no,
optimistic
I'm
or
not doomsday on any of this.
okay, I'm not
Again,
either.
it's
Thank you.
complexity, but I'm also not complete utopia. I think though both of those viewpoints have blind spots. It's always both. And so it's AI is such a question of how
See,
we're using it. There are people who are using it who I'm very skeptical about, and I think they're fucking themselves over. And there are people who are using it in really good ways. And that's
the
a really important conversation.
yeah, definitely. I was just gonna say the way you think, and I know we spoke about my master's program a little before I started, but that is a major premise of it is that things aren't black and white, and we live in,
Never.
and especially when it comes to people, I mean, there's just so much going on, and then you talk about systems of people, and there's just infinite, like unpredictable interactions going on constantly, and it's I think people often and I pushed back. My friend Austin and I had a debate, and he was trying to argue that morality is objective. His argument was God's objective. Morality stems from Him, which he constructed a pretty good argument. But then I pushed back, and I'm like, I don't think any construct can really be objective for the most part, and I certainly
Yeah.
don't think morality can be.
Yeah.
And I don't think, AI just saying it's good or it's bad. Like it's both and it's all of it. And like there's so
Yeah.
many nuances, but I think people seek a lot of comfort when they think that things are objective and that there's a truth and that, like our criminal justice system is a great
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
People think that that's objective. It is just not. It works and the people in it do a good job and try their best, but yeah, it's a lot messier than people I think would make people feel comfortable. And the world's a lot messier than would make people feel comfortable. Like sometimes bad things happen and no one's to blame, but we will still find someone to blame every single time.
100%, man. We might have to have Austin on the show and do a three-way debate. That sounds
What would
juicy.
you you don't have
Is
to
he
go
coming
into it.
from like, is he speaking from like the Christian point of view when he says,
Yes.
okay, well, I immediately disagree with that. I think anyone who says that one world religion is the religion and all the other ones are not, no bueno is just massive blind spot,
We would
first
have
of all.
maybe we should get Austin on here. So he started an Instagram channel. He's talking about scripture and other stuff and he's going on his faith journey, how he puts it. But yeah, we had an interesting discussion. You,
Yeah.
I might send you a segment to listen to that
Yeah,
you'd
send me.
appreciate.
There's also, honestly, I don't know him, but there's people not even worth having the debates because there's no room for taking other viewpoints or it's like it's not a debate if there is no room for change in thought. And
Yeah.
so that's also a thing.
It was good that it was a discussion. I didn't feel like I was just hitting a brick wall. I think we agreed to disagree at the end, but it was still
Yeah.
interesting to hear his viewpoint. But I know what you're saying. There's people who
Yeah.
just, you're like, this is
Right.
hopeless. What are we trying to do here?
So what I would say, and just to say for anyone listening to what I just said, like I love many aspects of Christianity, but I love many aspects of other things. And I, th my personal orientation is that all of these different world religions are just, they're metaphors that are dressing up the same intelligence in different ways that that made more sense to different people. And we had stories, and I 100% believe Jesus was a person that came on the earth and was an amazing teacher. But I also believe that there were other amazing teachers, and neither is right or wrong.
See,
It's
that's a
just
fascinating perspective too.
what resonates with you.
Yeah.
And so that's that. And just to say on like the objective reality piece, when you get really deep into studying the human nervous system and the way that it is filtering out reality. Like if we could objectively take in everything that's happening, it would be so overwhelming. We would have psychotic breaks. There is a filtering function of humans that is taking in what it feels like it needs to take in. It's kind of coming back to this cognitive
Yeah, of
biasy stuff.
course. And
And
that's
so
why we
when
have
you
these
when
biases
you
to
go deep enough into that, nobody is tuned into objective reality. 0% of human beings know objective reality.
my argument exactly. Thank you, Blake.
That's not even opinion. Like I'll send this dude some fucking science to go look into. This is science. That's science. And so a view that I love is like
Well, it was interesting. He didn't disagree that people are subjective and interpret things differently. And I was explaining as you just did. I'm like, well, I don't think people can be objective. We can't possibly separate from our biases, our experiences, how we perceive
Yeah,
things. Like you just can't, like you're saying, you can't just, okay, I'm going to turn on my objective lens and now I'm processing everything exactly as is. You can't
right.
do that. And it's not that biases are good or bad. But his argument, which it goes to, I think obviously a big part of most religions is just having faith in something that you can't prove objectively. Is he
Right.
saying God is the objective piece that
And
morality
God's
stems
in the
from?
Bible. So the Bible is like the objective truth
Yes.
sort of
And then
thing.
I pushed back and I was like, but we agree people have interpreted the Bible differently. It's like, yes, but those people they interpret it, for their own gains or personal reasons. I'm like, so why is yours the right one?
See, like that's such a blind spot to me. And that like as soon as I hear something like that, it's like this just isn't someone, and again, I'm sure he's a beautiful guy, but like that just I
Yeah,
get
yeah.
like I want to crawl out of my skin when I hear that.
Yeah, I think our thinking's more similar, but it actually was interesting to hear his perspective because
For sure.
it's I think everything about what I do, I mean really this job in child protective services, like we never have all the information. I'm going into cases, I'm interviewing kids, families, people lie, people withhold stuff. I'm
Right.
not there when these alleged things happen. Like I'm getting all these different stories. I don't know the outcome in real time. There's so many complexities to it. And
Right.
then there's also multiple perspectives. Like a parent can be using substances and still be a good parent. It doesn't mean that, they're just an awful person. And I think it's bad to look at it black and white. Like, yes, there's concerns we need to address. It doesn't mean this person doesn't care about their kid, And I think sometimes other perspectives in the system sometimes do look at things a little more black and white, which I feel strongly against and push back
Yeah.
against. But at the end of the day, it's like my work is so complex. My master's program only reinforces this view of things and everything about psychology and my background. It's just, it, I feel the same way you do about
Yeah.
like the the thought that people are dogmatic about some things and think they're black and white. I'm just very inclined to push back as hard as I possibly can as soon as I hear
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Completely, man. And this is something I've thought a lot about, and I was laughing because of how far off we got from your original question about the
Dude, this always
Instagram.
happens. I think we're both very similar, and we could
Yeah,
just
yeah. No,
we could just
I
keep
love it.
going.
This is exactly where I want to be. But like, so we were monkeys, right? And then we evolved these new prefrontal cortexes.
Crazy things.
And then our entire world changed, right? And I think we're still learning how to use these things. And the thing is that to see in the gray area it requires us to use the new part of our brain. Like black and white thinking, it uses less energy. It's easy, it's comfortable. And so there is this sort of like efforting required to actually go the extra step to like see like, oh shit, no, it's not just that. But so yeah. And I just want to return to close the loop on something because we kind of left people in the space of like there's no objective reality, and then then we switch the channel and they're like, wait, what do you mean there's no truth? Like what do we do with that, right? I like that can be that's kind of the next question. Okay, there's zero objective reality. How do we live in a how do we orient to an
Can,
existence like that?
can I answer?
Do you want to?
I'll give my
Yeah,
initial
yeah,
thoughts. I think you're gonna have a much better answer, but my initial thought is if we accept and we take this perspective, there is no objective reality. I think that one can be absolutely terrifying and uncomforting if you want to take it that route. But I think on
completely.
another route, it can be really freeing in that you
Yeah,
can choose what do I value, what's meaningful to me, and there's different paths that people can go on, and I get to shape mine and go down this journey. There's not one truth I have to follow. I have this
completely.
space, and I can make it tighter so the world's not so scary and there's not a million options,
Yeah.
but I have the freedom to carve out what makes life meaningful for me.
Completely, man. Spot on. And Robert Anton Wilson, who's this amazing man who died, but he wrote this book called Prometheus Rising, who literally goes so deep into this, goes deep into the science as well. He calls them reality tunnels. So everyone has their own reality tunnels. And that's and so um what he offers is kind of like this pragmatic view. And again, coming back to the idea of experiments, is since there's no objective reality, we get to run experiments. So we get to try on different things. We get to try on different stories. Because at the end of the day, everything, our reality tunnels, the kind of our operating system, whatever word you want to use to describe what I'm speaking to, they're really just a combination of stories. And so we spoke to this last time, but like the story in one of the stories within your reality tunnel might be that like God's evil, life is coming for me. I need to protect myself. I need to like live in a state of fear because, it's just me in this desolate wasteland of an existence. Another person in their reality tunnel might have the idea that life's happening for me, that there is actually some sort of intelligence that actually wants me to thrive in my life. And it's not all me. And I'm going to show up and I'm going to do my best. Those, and so again, if there's no objective reality tunnel, then you can't objectively say that one's right and one's wrong. However, you can look at the results that those two different views bring in life. And that's how you judge the reality tunnel that you're operating with. So you can, and this is the experimental lens again. You can look at the results of your life and say, okay, how is this operating system that I'm trying out? How is it going? Oh, it's not going so great. So I'm going to try something else. And again, all of this is within the bounds of like you're not freaking mass murdering humans sort of thing. Because that's where
Yeah.
this can get
You're a
tricky is
normal
like
person doing
right,
I
right.
mean,
Like as
maybe
long
not
as
normal
long as it's
things,
not
but
as long as it's not harming other people, we're in the realm of experimentation. And the sad truth is that most people live their entire life with the exact same reality tunnel. And then they wonder
mm,
why life isn't all they thought it was going to be. So,
that's a
um,
really interesting concept, these reality tunnels.
yeah,
And yeah,
we
it
all
makes
have
sense.
one.
Yeah.
And
We
if you're not aware of what yours is, you're at the mercy of yours.
yeah. Yeah.
Again, coming back to these questions, asking yourself, what reality tunnel am I living within?
What am I doing on
What is
this floating rock in the middle of nowhere?
right?
An ever expanding universe.
Certain reality tunnels bring a lot of meaning to your existence. Other reality tunnels are a desert of meaning. And
Yeah.
so, like, you know, meaning might be an important piece.
How do you think, like, what's, I mean, I guess there's, I'm hesitant to even ask this question. Like, I'm like, how do you find
Please
meaning?
ask.
But it's so individual. Like, what's an actionable step to find what's meaningful to you? And I mean, the only answer I can think of is you have to reflect on it. Like, You
Yeah.
have to think through that. I mean, I
Yeah.
just don't think there's like I'm sure there's journal prompts or something that could help you, but
Right.
it's not like a flow chart like
Right.
here's the meaning of your life. It's
Yeah. There's a couple of different uh flavors, I'll use your favorite word, to this question. Um, Obviously reflecting on it more is great. I also think at a certain point you don't know until you get on the field, like we're talking about. Like again, you could spend your entire life on the bench contemplating meaning in your life and then never actually get on the field because it's
yep.
you don't know. However, I think part of the contemplation that can be really powerful for a lot of people, and just to say this here, our culture has a meaning crisis. And Dr. John Vervaeke out of Canada has a 40-hour podcast series called The Meaning Crisis. And this is like
You say
he talks
40?
about, yeah, 40 hours. He's a PhD professor, insanely smart guy, and he literally is breaking down our modern time and all the other crises that we're seeing, mental health, whatever, the other few. Like meaning's the core one, and he traces it back from our evolution as a species. It's fascinating.
Mm.
Fascinating. I'll send this to you because I think you would like it.
Did you listen to
But
all 40 hours?
no, I started it and I wasn't in a moment where I could like really focus on it because this is the kind of thing that I actually want to like really integrate and learn, not just entertain, but learn. So I'm gonna keep going through it. But I've listened to a lot of his stuff, and so I think the contemplation part of meaning can be really is a good place for some people. And the truth is that there's a lot of people where the first door that they need to walk through is actually acknowledging that they feel pretty meaningless in their life. And it's a hard thing for people to grasp because we're also talking about emotions at this point, which is a whole other rabbit hole within our culture because we suck at emotions in short. But pretty much
And emotions can make us
I
suck.
I did a post on this recently, but like you can see this in many different arenas. But like, for example, maybe the way forward is actually admitting that you're lost. That's the same idea. And so maybe the doorway to finding meaning is actually just being honest with yourself and admitting that, yeah, maybe there could be a bit more room for meaning in my life. You don't have to go down the existential, I'm meaningless, but like just being like, yeah, there could be a bit more, you know? And I think if we're all being honest with ourselves, we all probably Uh, that's probably most of us. And so there's a couple of different, yeah, layers to meaning. On the one hand, there's things like, spending time with people you enjoy, like connection time. Like there's just things about the human species that seem to generate meaning. And again, here's another really important distinction is that the resource that creates meaning is connection. Being in the same room as people does not mean that you're connecting with people. And that's something that most people don't understand. I think a lot of my interactions in my adolescence, I wasn't really connecting with people. Connection to some degree, like, requires us to somewhat like lower the guard. And I'm not saying that we need to sit around getting all touchy feely and crying with each other, but there's like a depth to it. I'm sure everyone on the pod listening can resonate with you walk away from certain interactions with people and you just feel different from it. You're like, that
Mm.
was so meaningful. And it's not something that you experience after every single interaction that you have. But there's some that's just like, my cup feels more full. So I think like there's something, there's like, things like that, or, you could say spending more time in nature. Um, but the deeper part of meaning, yeah, this is a huge piece to open. Is there anything that you want to say about anything I just mentioned before I try and find my way through this wild forest?
Yeah, yeah, I'll quickly I think that's what I come back to, and I have done a fair amount of reflection on what's meaningful to me. And every time, I mean, it really does come down to relationships. And I don't even just mean with Anna Kate or with my friends or with my family. I mean, even just my interactions with my coworkers and the families I work with, and just my interactions with people. I think at the end of the day, everything I want to do, taking care of my own health, you know, having a good career, supporting people, like it all comes back to none of it matters if I don't have relationships that I care about. And I think that's
Yeah.
such a fundamental part. And there's another great book, The Happiness Hypothesis, about this super long Harvard study where they had, different people over decades and decades, and they interviewed them and they conducted research, and they found that like the number one predictor for all cause mortality, or one of them, was being lonely. Like people
Mm,
were better off smoking cigarettes. I mean,
yeah.
someone could fact check me. I don't know if that's quite true, but I think it was something like that. Like you'd be better off smoking cigarettes and feeling like you had meaningful connections than being lonely. Um, and it's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, I just think, and I get exactly what you're saying. Like sometimes you're drained talking to people, and not everyone's the same. And sometimes it's if people are difficult or do things that don't make sense to you, and it can feel cruel. But I think everything, at least to me, a ton of my meaning comes to relationships. And I was, Jelly Roll, the artist,
Yeah.
he just had a Joe Rogan podcast that was uploaded today, and I was listening
Oh,
to it
cool.
right before we spoke. And I don't know if you've seen him recently. He's lost like 300 pounds. Like
No way.
he went from beyond morbidly obese to
Yeah.
looking like a pretty regular dude. And I
Wow.
only listened to the first 20 minutes, but he was like, "Here's what changed this time." Because he's like, I've tried to lose weight. He's like, I've been back and forth. He was like, and then, I did a lot of thinking, a lot of discovering about myself and what's driving this. And then he goes, the first day I was starting my new journey, he goes, it was just absolutely pouring rain. And he's like, I walked downstairs, and he's like, I've lied, to my family so much about I'm going to do this, I'm going to change these things. And he's like, it's okay. It's raining, you can start tomorrow, whatever. And he's like, I knew I had to do it. So he goes, I went out there, absolutely pouring rain. He goes, I do this whole loop. And he goes, I come back and on the porch cheering, and he starts crying during this portion of it. Like he's tearing up. He goes, my whole family is out there cheering for me, cheering me on.
Uh-huh.
He's like,
Get
that is the
chills.
reason I've kept up with this for so long. And that's the reason I've lost 300 pounds. And I'm
Wow.
like, it was really powerful the way he put it. But yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's dive into the
Yeah,
forest.
yeah. It's such a complex topic. There are so many pieces to it, so maybe we start and we come back to it next time. Because it's I mean, it's again, we're talking about all these questions, but this is the question. We're talking about meaning. This is the question. Because what's wealth if you don't feel meaning in your life?
What's
You know?
anything,
What's
right?
we're right. What's anything? Um, and I love what you said. It is about relationships, but it's about relationships to everything. Because our life, if you think about it, is just one huge web of relationships. Working out is your relationship to your body, you know, your relationship to yourself. Like, how do you treat yourself? Do you call yourself a piece of shit every morning when you wake up, or do you have like a pretty good relationship with yourself? Which is something, by the way, I think is um, people could spend more time thinking about, like the subtle ways that we're talking to ourselves. They go a long way.
Yeah.
Relationships to friends. Okay, relationships to work. We talked about that one. The truth is that most people in our country don't like what they do. And maybe it's cool. It's like, oh, I get to go on cool vacations, yada yada. But in terms of like, and again, this is a hard one, especially for people at least in my environment growing up. Is like, I had very few, if not any, adults around me where I like looked at them and like they like absolutely love what they do. Like they're lit up by what they do. And again, it's not to say it doesn't come with pain, but it's like you could tell that they're like a person on a mission. Like they're crushing it, they're making money, they're doing the thing, but like this is like it's more than work for them. And that's something I feel really passionate about. And again, it's that's a whole other rabbit hole to go down because I think the age that we're in, that's ever more possible, but you're not going to be able to get there if you don't know who you are. And that's a whole other thing. But like,
Do we?
yeah,
I know this is a
keep
our
opening
second conversation, but there's
these
just
Pandora boxes. But again, relationship to your work, like that's a meaning piece. Like, do you feel like what you're doing is in some way benefiting humankind? Like, I think that is a not to get. It doesn't mean that you're a martyr. Doesn't mean that you're like doing things for everyone else. It's like, but I think there is a piece of our evolution as a species where we evolved in a tribe, like we evolved to have to feel purpose. That like what I am doing is for the betterment of the whole. That like my actions, whether it's I was going to gather firewood, I was going to hunt, that I am a part of a bigger web of something and my actions are benefiting that. That is something that I think very few people feel in life. And I think that's a
Yeah.
massive problem.
Well, I think also, and I don't think you're saying this strictly, but I don't think you necessarily have to think you're changing the whole world, but maybe even just your community
Right.
or a small part. Like and
Exactly.
and I guess I have kind of an exception of a job being in social services or healthcare, maybe
Yeah.
the same way, where we directly help people, and it's pretty
Yeah.
tangible sometimes when we do.
Yeah.
Um, but even then, it's not like my reach is that great. I haven't
Yeah.
solved child abuse. I just do the best I can with every case, and I do my best to try to support these families and support these
Right.
kids. And that does offer a sense of meaning. But I think most people are in jobs where it's not so obvious in the
Right.
sense that mine is.
And that's a really important point, man. I'm glad you brought that up because here's the thing is that there are plenty of people in like let's say social work roles who hate their job and maybe not even hate their jobs is a strong word. What I'm talking about is a feeling. And so like meaning is a cup that you fill, that is a feeling. Like it's gonna be hard if you sit down and make a checklist for things that are gonna create meaning in your life. It's not
Yeah.
so simple like that. It's like this invisible thing that we're moving with. And
Yeah,
so
definitely.
just to say that like for you example, you might have that deep feeling from what you're doing. There's other people though who are doing roles that are quote unquote helping humanity that's not their thing. And so when I'm talking about meaning, the idea for me is that like we each have something. We each have a way of being in our life that for whatever reason, when we're doing that thing, we feel like this is our offering to the world. And it doesn't have
Mm.
to mean that
I see your
it doesn't have
distinction.
to mean you're solving poverty in Africa. Like this could be, and I'm not poo-pooing on business at all. Like I'm trying to make a ton of money, y'all. And I can tell you why I'm trying to make a ton of money. I'm not against any of that. That for some people, that feeling is going to come from being the CEO of like a multi-million dollar company. And so there's no like, that's the job that you need to do it. It's completely unique to us. And that's why it's beautiful. But that's why we kind of touched on this last time. That's why like it's so important and it's so unfortunate that we don't have this in our society, that our educational system and development tends to be filling people with facts versus drawing out who we are in our natural intelligence.
Hmm.
And if you missed episode one, go listen to that. But like, so we're
Yeah,
playing
this really
catch up.
is an extension.
We're
We're gonna
playing
have to
catch
do a
up.
part three.
We're playing catch up in a way. And again, it's hard because a lot of people listening and friends from the past and stuff, it doesn't quite make sense to them. It's like, what do you mean that like there's this whole other aspect of who I am that just is hasn't really had the space to be brought out and drawn out. And again, everyone has a different experience. Everyone had a different upbringing. Some people did have that, and like, but I think it's safe to assume that there's more. There's more to you than you know quite yet. And that feeling of being meaningful, that I'm alive, I know what I'm doing, what I'm supposed to be doing. Every single human on being has that. And it's just you might not have found it yet.
Yeah. Well, I do love the optimistic perspective, and yeah, those are some really good reflections. I am gonna have to hop off soon, but
Yeah, yeah.
I
Sounds good.
do have to ask. You said you want lots of money, and you'll talk about why.
Yo, yo.
How much is lots of money, and what do we want it for?
Well, I was doing 5-year goal setting with my program in the peeps the other day.
We also
Next
need to
year,
talk about that in the
yeah,
next
yeah.
podcast too.
Well, I'm people who don't know me, like I'm an entrepreneur and not like tech startup by any means. I'm like, trying to help people and make money. And um, anyway, my goal next year is to make my first six-figure year. So that's my goal next year. 5 years, I want to be making upper six figures. And so that's the 5-year goal, 2030, upper six figures. And the why, that's a huge question. That'd be fun to actually explore. I think getting into the nature of money and sort of the playing field of business and things like
Yeah,
this is super
we're gonna
fun
have to
because
make this like a 10-part series.
it's like, dog, again, the world's changed. 2025 has changed and people are still updating to that sort of lag time. It's like, you know, there's so many different ways of doing it, but for me it's like money just makes who you are more. And so if you're a shitty person, money's going to make you probably have access to doing more shitty things in the world or whatever. I think that's a better frame than like money buys freedom and opportunity. If you're someone who's already like I think it's better to see it as it just makes more of what you already are. And so so for me, it's like, yo, I want to fund cool things. I want to be able to pay my friends to work for me. I want to be able to build an amazing home that like I get to host things at. I want to be able to have that opportunity to keep reinvesting. I'm not going to put all my money away into a retirement fund. Like that's not the game that I'm playing. And so, and I just see like money opens doorways and I can keep investing and, we talked about systems. I'm trying to create systems that generate money without me even being there, that are also, that are also creating benefit in the world. And then over time, I have like this fucking food forest of all these businesses and systems that are just providing benefit, paying me, and yeah, because also the better that I'm taking care of myself, nourishing myself in my life, the better that I get to show up specifically all in general, but also because of the nature of my work. And that's why I think doing things to help other people is such an amazing incentive structure because it's incentivizing you to take care of yourself. Because because you are the product, and so when you're taking care of yourself, you are literally influencing your business.
I
So
My first thought is one, I just love that you're completely transparent and honest about it because I think,
for
some
sure,
people are like, I don't do this for
we
the
have
money.
to be like, why
But
not? You know?
my dad, when he was a professor, and I told you he taught child development, so sometimes people would go into roles in different fields and nonprofits. And he's like, every time I had a student come up and say, I want to work for a nonprofit, he goes, what's wrong with for profit? Right? And these
Bro,
nonprofits
our
aren't even,
society has so much money shit. It's
but
crazy.
yeah, you should be compensated for giving back to the world and doing what you're doing. And I I don't think that's a bad thing at all. And clearly you've thought about it, and you have a plan
Yeah, yeah.
and path, at least a framework to work
Yeah.
in. But yeah, I just love how honest you are about honestly everything and all the insights. Um,
Likewise, man.
well, if you're down to run it back, we're definitely
You
gonna
know
have
the
to do
answer,
another
man.
one.
I'll go 3 days. I'll be the rest of your guests on the challenge.
Yeah,
Like I thoroughly enjoy this
man, I
a
might need
lot.
it.
So really appreciate you inviting me back.
Yeah, brother. So, dude, it's so great to reconnect, and I mean seeing where we both are. And I do also really appreciate the questions at the beginning. I mean, it is a different experience because, I'm primarily the interviewer, but to hear questions, and especially your questions that are rather thoughtful, really did make me think.
Yeah,
So it's
good.
yeah, all good stuff, man. I think we have actually quite similar views of the world in a good way. And hopefully we aren't just reinforcing each other's thoughts, but I think we got some good ones mixed in there with all of them.
Yeah, yeah. Those people out there who just do that,
Yeah,
we're
we
objective, clear
our
thinkers.
thoughts. No, yeah, yeah. You should question everything. Question stuff we say.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously, do your own stuff
Totally.
for our millions of
Totally.
viewers here at the Average Joe Podcast. But this will conclude day
Get ready for
19.
that next camera reveal. We're coming with it.
Yeah, I'm gonna start running out of money for the camera. Speaking of money, but all right, Blake. Thank you, sir.